Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Golden Resource webinar. Um, I'm happy to introduce Ben Rothke, who is giving his time to teach all of us on how we can protect ourselves and those that we're caring for from all the scams out there these days. We're very happy to have him. Ben works in corporate information security and has a lot of knowledge and expertise in this subject. So without further ado, I'm happy to have Mr. Rothke start.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining and appreciate everyone coming here. So my name is Ben Rothke, I work in technology. I've written a few books. You can reach out to me on Twitter if you have any questions at the end or any point. Feel free to send me an email. So I'm going to talk about why I'm giving this presentation, talk about why you are being targeted. Going to talk about phone scams, the top 10 list. These are top 10 of perhaps 100 scams. The main thing is, how to avoid being a victim and what to do if they do call you. So, why am I giving this? Working from home, our phone was ringing a lot with these scam calls. So I work in information security. I wanted to, sort of dig deeper, understand what was going on here. People I knew, highly intelligent people, professionals, physicians, became victims of these scammers, and so wanted to help others avoid those mistakes. And so here's some real headlines, and I could put page after page of headlines of people who've lost their life savings, people whose lives has been devastated, etc. This is a huge problem. This is a very real problem. We'll talk about artificial intelligence at the end. It's only going to get much, much worse. It's going to be quite a while before the government puts controls in, and we don't even know if they'll be effective. So the only thing you could really do is have an awareness and avoid being a victim. So why do the scammers do it? The same way Willie Sutton supposedly said is because that's where the money is in first world countries. There's massive amounts of money to be had. A person in a third world country could make a year's salary in one day. So there's that there. They also know the odds of them being caught are extraordinarily low for a lot of reasons we'll talk about. And it's actually gotten to the point where the Jalisco drug cartel in Mexico is actually taking over call centers. They found that it's more profitable and in fact, easier to scam people in the United States than to move cocaine and marijuana. So it's a real problem. These are not done by sort of one-off, college students. This is organized crime at its finest. These are highly effective, highly well-run, highly managed organizations. They're ruthless. As I said, the drug cartel in Mexico, they hold a lot of these people in call centers captive. They literally have guns to their heads. This is true in a lot of countries where these scams are occurring, in Vietnam, in Myanmar, in India. These are sweatshops where the people making these calls are actual slaves, and they're being forced to do that. They operate in areas where law enforcement is poorly paid, and often they're on the payroll of the scammers themselves. That's been a huge bane in the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, is that the Mexican army is on the payroll of the cartel. A person in the army may make $200 a month, $300 a month. The cartel's paying them $3,000 a month. So where their loyalties are. But the main thing is the economic incentives are significant, which is driving this. Here's an article from 2 years ago, how you could call every phone in Los Angeles for $1,000. It was not that long ago where we had long distance phone calls, and we spoke quickly. You'd often time the call to be after 9 p.m. where the rates went down. As I said, 2 years ago, you could call all of Los Angeles for $1,000. It's probably now $750. Technology enables tens of thousands of calls per minute. And these scam call centers are only limited, by the amount of people there. Law enforcement in India, Mexico, and other third world countries, they're on the payroll of the scammer. They're operating out of jurisdiction, which makes it difficult. And finally, in the United States, this is a weird sort of problem because it crosses a lot of different regulatory agencies. We're talking about Department of Justice, the FCC, the FTC. There's many, many sub agencies. So if it was just, say, airlines, then we'd say, hey, it's the FAA. If it's pharmaceuticals, it's the FDA. But this is crossing so many agencies, none of them really want to own it. With that, it's created this perfect storm where it's literally an epidemic. Law enforcement is swarmed and swamped by the number of people calling them. They can't handle it. At the end result, people are losing their life savings, many times thousands of dollars, and they have zero recourse. And so, as he said, the goal is the government's not going to do anything. It's up to you. Be aware. And the key is you do not want to, you don't want to be a victim. So, who's a target? Pretty much anyone and everyone with a phone. JFS, we're sponsoring tonight's webinar targeting older adults. And older adults are particularly susceptible to a lot of reasons. They're nice, they're trusting people, they're very giving. They're retired, they'll have time on their hands, so they'll be answering the phone. Often they're retired and they have a lot of funds available. And finally, they're not technical savvy. They don't know the ins and outs of how computers work, and they will fall for the person, the scammer, who's making up a bogus story why they need access to the computer. So you put all of that together, and an older adult is particularly susceptible. And since they're particularly susceptible, they have to be all the more so vigilant. Your phone is a scammer's hotline. As I said, the notion of a long distance call doesn't exist anymore. If you get a cold call today, it's almost certainly, it's a scammer. Some people can't even answer their phones because just the sheer amount of calls they're getting. But the point being is, if you know their shady tactics and you'll be able to be aware of these, then you could avoid being a victim. That is literally all you could do: be aware and avoid being a victim. And that's what we're going to cover the next 40 minutes or so. We'll leave some time for questions at the end. And with that, so when a scammer is calling you, they have the house advantage. They have a lot of things in their favor. First off, they're always playing offense. This forces you to play defense. They're extremely aggressive. They're playing a chess match with you, and they're 5, 6, 7 moves ahead of you. Once again, they've made hundreds, thousands of calls. They have scripts in front of them. So they have answers to every question of yours. They have a response to every question of yours. Often these are incorrect responses. These are lies. Once again, this is why was a con man called a con man? Because it's confidence. They have this confidence, and they want you to believe they're authentic. They'll often use a sense of urgency and deadline to really force you. And you put all of those things together, and even the strongest of people are going to fall for those. A friend of mine, he's a physician. They caught him one Friday afternoon. His assistant wasn't there. He was busy. He was trying to get out at the end of the day. He fell for a scam. So they have everything in your favor. So your goal is to be aware of that and don't fall for that. Some people think caller ID says who they really are. That's not the case. You can't trust caller ID. It's easily, spoofable. There's a lot of legitimate reasons people will spoof their ID. Physicians, do it often. If they have to call you off hours from their cell phone, They don't want you to know their cell phone number for obvious reasons. If you need to reach them, call the service, call the office. So there's a lot of legitimate reasons. There's software that makes it easy to disguise your caller ID. So the fact that it'll say, IRS, fact that it'll say Social Security Administration, is it, maybe, maybe not. But just because it's there, don't believe it at all, because it's completely easily spoofable. If you've ever been in Chinatown, they sell fake Rolexes. And a lot of these Rolexes are very, very difficult to tell apart. An expert could tell the difference. Maybe they'll open it up, they'll look a little deeper. But, a fake Rolex, which you could, hold in your hand, is hard. And so too, caller ID, don't believe it. Often they'll push you. They'll say now, the deadline. One of the biggest red flags of a scammer is you have to do it now. Just because they're calling you now doesn't mean, you're obligated to deal with them. A legitimate salesperson, someone's legitimate, is not going to call you with these, immediate deadlines. And once again, just because they're calling you doesn't mean you have to accept the offer. No legitimate person is going to treat you like that. And once again, if they're having that high pressure and now, and saying, once you hang up, the deal is over, 99%, it's a scammer. So that's one of the perfect red flags. Not allowing you to call them back. That's absurd. But once again, that's the tactics they use. That's the high pressure they're using. And that's why, people fall for it. So let's talk about our top 10 here. So these are, the top 10 scams. Numbers 1, 2, and 10. People have lost their life savings for these. 3 through 9, people have lost anywhere from hundreds to many thousands of dollars. If you want, you could go to this link at the end and you could hear actual recordings I've had with scammers, and you could, hear their tactics, hear their lies, etc. So the number one scam pretty much is Amazon scams. Over half of Americans are Amazon customers. So, right off the bat, you're calling someone and you have a 50% chance that they're a real Amazon customer. And what they're doing, the variations of saying, someone has bought an expensive item, a laptop, an iPhone, they bought it, they're shipping it to you, and we need you to cancel the order. And what they want you to do is go to a website to do this. First off, if there's fraud within Amazon, Amazon has a superb security center. They've got a superb fraud department. So it's not your problem. They'll cancel it. They'll stop everything. Amazon is not going to call you. But most people are oblivious to that. So what these scammers do is they say to issue the refund and to initial the cancellation, you have to go to a website. And what that website is going to do, it's going to load software so they could connect to your computer. And once they connect to your computer, they're going to ask you to log into your bank to process the refund. And there's a few things here. There is legitimate software where a person needs to connect to your computer. The only person to do that, if you're working for a company and technical support needs to connect to your computer, they'll do that. But, Amazon doesn't need to connect to your computer. So what they're doing is with this software, it's called remote control software. They could be in India and access your laptop as if you're sitting in front of it. And what they do is, since you're logged in to your bank also, and once again, you don't need to log into your bank to start a refund. But once again, people are falling to these high pressure tactics. They're going to use the remote control software. What they also have the capability to do with that remote control software is put an image in front of your screen, an Amazon image. And so you can't see what's going on in the background. And within a matter of minutes, they will have drained your bank account. They will move that money to their account. And it's important to know scammers are highly efficient, highly effective. They've done this many, many times. They know exactly where to go into Citi, JP Morgan, Chase, wherever it is, and they will transfer it within 2-3 minutes. This is going on in the background, and the person's oblivious to that. All they will see is an Amazon logo in front of them. Then the person will say, thank you very much, Mr. Smith. You don't have to worry about anything. Order's been canceled. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. So people go out their business. A day or so later, all your checks are starting to bounce. Your automatic payments are not clearing. You go in and you see your bank account has been drained. And this is what these scammers do. At this point, you have pretty much no recourse. You could call police department. They'll say, get in line. So the point is, it's important to know Amazon is never going to call you. No one ever legitimately needs to connect your computer. Rarely, if you've got a relationship with them already, this is a corporate laptop and your corporate tech support needs to do that. Once again, Amazon, Best Buy, no retail establishment is going to call you and tell you they need to connect to your computer. It's common sense, but people fall for this. Here's a real story, 19 News, Rocky Man out of $120,000 in this Amazon scam. And it happens, in a matter of minutes. So be very, very careful, because this is where a person could lose their entire life savings in the blink of an eye. And the sad part, as I said, is you have almost no recourse for a lot of reasons. If you're in Passaic, if you're in Brooklyn, you call the police department. They may redirect you to the Secret Service. You fill out the form at the Secret Service, they may get back to you in 6 weeks. And what these criminal organizations do is they'll move your money from Citibank to their bank, and then they'll move it again and again. So it's veritably impossible to recover. So beware. Another one is the Social Security arrest warrant scam. Someone calls and claims your Social Security number is used for fraudulent activities in Texas. There's a lot of various ways they do this, but they say there's a warrant out for your arrest. The marshal is heading to your house within the hour, and unless you pay the amount due, you will be under arrest. And that's enough to terrify most people. If you're driving down the street and you see those red lights behind you, your blood pressure skyrockets. And then for most of us, they just drive by. But if you get a call and saying the marshal's about to leave for your house, people are going to be terrified, and that's how they're falling victim. And so they're not, Social Security, the IRS, no one's going to call you and do these things. They're never going to threaten your benefits. They will send you letters. They'll communicate to you, but they're never going to, reach out to you and tell you to do these things. And what these scammers do is they'll say, well, to pay the initial fee, you have to, wire money through, Western Union. They'll tell you to send it via PayPal. They'll tell you to go to Walmart and buy Apple Store gift cards. So if you owe to the IRS, you could go to their website and you pay them. The IRS is not going to ask you to go to a Western Union and send them money that way. The IRS is never going to ask you to pay via Walmart gift cards or Gap Store gift cards, etc. We're sitting now in the comfort of our homes, and it sounds laughable and it sounds humorous. But when these aggressive scammers, when people are making their calls, they're terror. They're terrified. No one wants to be arrested. And so the anyone who asks you to do any of these things, they're the scammer. They're a scammer. They could lose. And your risk is losing out thousands, tens of thousands of your life savings. If someone is calling you and saying you're about to be arrested, the first thing you should do is saying, "I'd like to speak to my lawyer." Any legitimate person, anyone in law enforcement, when they hear that words, they will say, "Okay, you do that." These scammers will say, "Absolutely not. You have no right to call your lawyer." As I said, go to that website. You could listen to real recordings I had with them. It's absurd. That's part of our constitutional rights is we have the right, to speak with an attorney. We have a right to have an attorney represent us. The scammers will tell you they're not. They'll lie to you. Don't believe them. Once again, if someone says they're going to arrest you, call your kids, call your lawyer, but don't continue the call with them. Anyone legitimate will respect that. The scammers don't respect that. The key point is no one from the IRS is going to call you and ask you to do these things. No one from any federal agency is going to do that. The risk is, losing your life savings. So, be aware of this scam. Another scam is, the 0% interest rate scam. You get this call. They'll say they're from your bank. They'll say they're from Experian, TransUnion, and you qualify for a 0% interest rate. They'll say it's a debt elimination. They'll talk about the Fair Credit Reporting Act. They'll use real laws and talk about things from Biden that President Obama did. They mix lies with the truth, and they confuse people. What they're doing, in fact, is simply taking your balance, moving it to another card, and with that, you're being charged a service fee. You're being charged extremely high interest rates. Your debt will not go away. Your credit card debt will not go away, and you're going to be a lot poorer for that. If you listen to these recordings, they say lie upon lie upon lie. They talk about in many cases how they could eliminate, 50% of your credit card debt. They can't do that. But when people hear that, if a person's $12,000 in debt, they're paying hundreds of dollars a month in finance charges, that's music to their ears. But, they fall for that. The risk here, massive fees, little change in balance. And more often than not, your balance will not lessen. You'll have a larger balance. Extended auto warranty scams, another popular one. From a legal perspective, they can't offer you a warranty. From a legal perspective, only the manufacturer is able to issue a warranty with the sale of the vehicle. What they can tell you is what's called a extended service contract. And this extended service contract, there's many legitimate ones. If you want one, call Geico, call the dealer you bought your car from, call the bank you may have financed your car from, call Tesla, call GM, call Ford. But what they're doing is they're selling you these bogus contracts. They'll sell you a policy, but more often than not, you have little coverage to show for it. These should be avoided at all costs. Extended service contracts can be extremely valuable. They could be an amazing, cost savings because a lot of repairs now in modern cars are extremely expensive. And that's why when you buy the car from the dealer, they'll offer you this. When you refinance, your bank may offer you an extended service contract. But if someone is calling you about this, avoid it at all costs because you get a nice piece of paper, but try taking that paper to the dealer. They will not honor it. So the risk is, you're spending, $3,000 a year for a policy that is worthless. Yeah, you're not going to lose your life savings, but you're going to lose $3,000, $4,000 a year, and not and have zero coverage for that. Seniors are targeted. There's a lot of variants of Medicare scams. As I said, half of Americans are Amazon customers, and 50 million Americans are over 65. Government is going to spend close to $1 trillion soon on Medicare. So there's a lot of money to be had there. And so there's legitimate plans called Medigap, Medicare Advantage plans, and like extended warranty, there's legitimate ones. What these scammers are doing are selling you very weak, very poor plans that benefit them, but don't benefit you. They're going to use high pressure tactics, make up things. They're going to ask for your ID, ask for a lot of information. Don't give it to it. Many times they want your Medicare number, which is quite valuable. They could sell you a plan you could get elsewhere for much cheaper. As I said, there's a lot of value in having these, but you have to be extremely careful when buying these, because there can be limitations. There could be issues to which physician you could see. If you've seen your physician for the last 20 years, if you're moving to a plan and they don't accept that, you might not want to, they might not be able to see them. If you want to get an extended plan, don't do it through a cold call. And once again, this is not something you should do haphazardly. This is a significant life choice. As if there is a lot of benefit to Medicare Advantage. Is it good for you? Think about it. Speak to your kids, speak to an elder care lawyer. Call JFS and speak to them. JFS has one vested interest. That's you. But when the people are calling you, their vested interest is in their commission. They're looking out for the best plan, which is for them and not for you. So these plans you're buying over the phone serves them, not you. And it can be devastating because your healthcare provider, which you may have been using for 10, 20, 25 years, and if they don't see you anymore, that can really, mess up your health. So two things is only share your Medicare number with very trusted parties, never with a cold caller. Anyone calling you about any of these plans, any cold call again around Medicare, hang up the phone. We'll talk later. The best thing, just hang up the phone. The main thing is if you're considering one of these plans, call a lawyer, have your kids, have a trusted advisor, research it for you. But under no circumstances should you buy a plan like this over the phone. Electric and energy scams, they lie through their teeth. They'll call, say they're from PSE&G. They'll say you were on a commercial plan, there was a mistake, this and that, and they want to move you to a lower plan. They'll ask you to get your bill, and there's ID numbers on your bill. And once they have that, they can modify your plan. And part of the challenge of energy is the way it's charged. I mean, you go to you buy a gallon of gas, it's $3.39, it's $3.49, etc. Relatively easy. But gas and electricity are priced out at 0.130331761 kilowatt hour, or 0.036003887 cents per therm. Look on your bill, it's right there. So what these scammers are going to do is they're going to say, oh, we're going to be able to get you a much better rate, when in fact, it could be 2, 3, 4, 10 times the amount. The thing there is you might not see the bill for many weeks, because the change is going to go into effect within days. The way things are billed, you may not see your bill for 6 to 8 weeks. For a lot of people, you may have automatic bill payment for your gas, for your electricity, and you may not look at the bill. So that gas and electricity, which you've been paying $200 a month for, suddenly your bill, you're being debited $1,200 now, and that'll go on a few months, and then you spent thousands upon thousands of dollars more. So anyone calling you over the phone who wants to switch your energy, hang up on them. Once again, there's a lot of great ways to save. But doing it via a cold call is not one of them. If you call PSE&G and complain about it, they will tell you, hey, you gave them the information, you authorized that charge, and you are on the hook for that. So once again, you're not going to lose your life savings, but you could lose, a few $1,000s, and that is a lot of money. So anyone calling you on the phone about gas, electricity, anything, just hang up. Travel and vacation. This is, one of the oldest scams in the book. They'll make up excuses like, you had reservations before COVID, it's going to expire, and we want to give you the ability to do that. They'll say everything is free, but you have to pay a reservation fee. Fun fact here, I challenge you to find anyone, any of your friends, any of your friends' friends, any of your friends' acquaintance, anyone in your city who's ever gotten a call about a vacation that wasn't a scam. If you find someone, please have them call me, and I'll buy you a cup of coffee, because it just doesn't happen. There's a place in Cancun, Vallarta Gardens. It's a timeshare that exists just to scam people. You want to travel, go to Expedia, call a travel agent. Anyone calling you on the phone about these, you're going to get it's like the extended warranty. They're going to sell you these travel certificates, but they're going to be worthless. I don't have it on here. Same thing, timeshares. Timeshares work for perhaps 2% of the population. For the other 98% of the population, they've bought an investment that they literally can't get rid of. They're almost like indentured servants. If you want to buy a timeshare, you could buy a timeshare for $1. I kid you not, go online, search for it. There's people who are desperate to sell their timeshares because it's such a horrendous investment. The bottom line is, people are swept up away in vacations. They hear, free travel to Mexico, cruises. When these scammers call, listen to the recording. You get 4 free airline tickets, a free cruise, unlimited alcohol, unlimited food, etc., etc. Where do you want to go? We'll take you there. You just have to pay $999 reservation fee. We'll hold your reservation for the next 5 years. As it is, since people want vacations, and so people are enamored by cruises and faraway places, they become oblivious to the scams. But everything around travel, vacation, which someone is calling you about, it's a scammer. Tell them bon voyage and simply just hang up on them. And once again, I challenge you, find someone who's ever gotten a call about a vacation who wasn't speaking with the scammer, and I'll buy you, I'll buy you lunch, not just a cup of coffee. There's a lot of calls out there about solar energy. If you own a home, and solar energy can be great. There's significant benefits for a lot of people. But with solar energy, there's a lot of fine print, and often, they use these hard pressure tactics. They talk about no out-of-pocket expenses. You could buy a house with no out-of-pocket expenses, but you still may have a $500,000 mortgage. But you have to finance the balance, and there's a lot of negatives to solar energy. It could limit the resale of the house. And once again, these fast-talking salespeople who are calling you on the phone about solar energy, they're looking out for what's best for them. If you're interested in solar energy, start it from your own. Take a walk around the house, your neighborhood, and you'll see people who have solar panels on the roof. And one of the things about solar energy, people love to talk about it. They have apps, and they like to look at these apps and reflect on how much money they're saving. And so most people, it's a decent investment. So if you're considering solar energy, take a 5-minute walk around your house, knock on their door, and most of the time they'll be happy to speak to you about that. And if they're happy about it, use the people they use. But if you use the contract, if you use the salespeople who are calling you on the phone, more often than not, you're going to be overpaying. You'll be put into a highly restricted, overpriced contracts, and it can make it, much more difficult to resell your house. Consumer Reports has had a lot of articles about solar panels. You could do it there. But once again, if you want to do it, take a 5-minute walk around your house and speak to the people. Fundraising, is another big one. A lot of these calls are automated, and they use very legitimate sounding names like Children's Health Fund, American for Police and Trooper Safety, autism, Alzheimer. What these are political action committees. And there's many, many legitimate political action committees. APAC is a PAC. Many of them. And what these PACs do is they operate under Section 527 of the IRS code. And what that means in Section 527 is the money you give to them is not tax deductible. If you want a tax deductible donation, the entity has to be a 501c3 charity. But what these organizations are doing, they're using names that make it sound like they're a 501c3 charity. But they're not. They're a PAC. And so what you're doing is you're giving these donations to them, is going to them to finance their vacation homes, to finance their luxury homes, so they could enrich themselves. Strictly speaking, they're not doing anything illegal. They're, at the end of the call, they say they're a 527 PAC, but most people are oblivious at that point. And they use these legitimate sounding firemen, policemen, 911, etc. But once again, they enrich themselves with your $50, $100, $250 donation. They capitalize on name confusion to deceive you. Children's Hospital, Children's Advocacy Fund. There's thousands of them. So with that, just hang up. Why? Because you don't get a tax deduction. You're literally throwing your money away because there's no reason you should finance someone's luxury home in the Bahamas, because what you're doing is 98% of the money is going to them. The other 2%, they may donate to autism research. There's thousands of organizations like this. The IRS doesn't have the manpower to do anything. The only thing you could do is, if you want to make a donation, all of us know there's no shortage of legitimate organizations that really need our money, legitimate 501c3 organizations who need our money. But if you're getting these calls, often they're automated. They sound legit. They use the names to confuse you. Don't donate. Just hang up. So finally, there's a thing called cryptocurrency. You may have heard, called Bitcoin, Ethereum. They make these claims where you could have 10,000% profit. You could double your money in a matter of hours. If you've ever gotten what's called a wrong number scam, a wrong number text, often it'll be something like, "Hey, it's Jimmy. Are we doing dinner tonight?" Or, "Hi, is your car for sale?" These are not wrong number texts. These are from the same organizations, highly sophisticated. What they're doing is they will engage you in what's called a pig butchering scam. Most of us, we don't eat pig, but the nature of pig butchering is pig farmers, what they do is they fatten a pig, and once it's nice and fat, they slaughter it. And so what these people do with these wrong number texts is they engage you over weeks and months. They slowly do that. They build a relationship, and then they'll say, "Hey, I've invested in crypto and made a mint. Would you like to do that? And what they do is, as you can see on the top right, this looks like the type of screen you'd see at Charles Schwab, at any investment firm. And they'll say, invest your money with us and you could see it grow. And they'll say, here's your investment. You put $1,000 in, it's now worth 50,000. Why don't you put in 50,000 and you'll see it be, $5 million. But this is the Wizard of Oz. It's all smoke and mirrors. This is not a legitimate dashboard. And when you try to contact them to withdraw the money, they disappear. There's people who've lost millions of dollars in these Bitcoin scams and these cryptocurrency scams. All of these wrong number texts, they're not wrong numbers. They're highly targeted by highly organized criminal organizations. I said, people have had to move out of their homes because they've lost their life savings that can no longer pay. So, if you're interested in investing in cryptocurrency, extraordinarily risky, speak to your trusted financial advisor. But anyone calling you on the phone, anyone reaching out to you to do that, disconnect immediately because you will lose it all. There's a thing called artificial intelligence. We could speak for hours on this. This is a game changer, which is really making it exponentially better for the fraudsters. They could make a call that it sounds like your grandkids who are away on vacation. They need your help. They're arrested. It's called the grandma scam. It's called voice cloning. Research by McAfee, a respected security company. They could say it does it with a 95% accuracy. All you need is about 30 seconds of a person's voice to manipulate into a complete conversation. So it's making it much, much more difficult. How do you protect yourself from these voice? Unfortunately, don't trust the voice. I mean, obviously, if your daughter's calling you, you could trust it, but once someone is sort of calling out of the blue and asking for money, you have to be extremely weary. I said, don't rely on caller ID. I said it can be spoofed, it can be fake, and if need be, hang up. But things are getting much more sophisticated and much more challenging. These are what we call deep fakes. There's videos, thousands of videos of Biden, Obama, Trump, who are just simply not them. So with them, how do you avoid being a victim? I said, I gave you the top 10 list. We could do, there's 20, 30, 40 other types of scams. So if you suspect things, hang up. 99 times out of 10, they will not call you back. So your best defense is simply hang up. Assume the caller is a scammer until proven otherwise. Obviously your friends, family, you don't have to do that. We're talking about cold calls, someone trying to sell you something, someone calling you out of the blue, someone claiming to be your bank, your brokerage, etc. Start asking questions. One thing scammers hate is questions. I have an article. I said, how do you get them to hang up on you? Simple question is ask them where they're from. And they'll make up something and they'll say New York. And I'll say, oh, really? What part of New York are you from? And so these guys at call center, they have no idea. And they'll say, North New York. And so, right away, they are a scammer. But again, just hang up. Here's what, why ask questions? You're not giving them information. You're asking them questions to validate them. They think they're from Orlando. Oh, where in Orlando? You're LA. What part of LA? Most of them, they're going to get flustered with that. But the main thing is never give out confidential information. Don't give out credit card information, personal information, etc. If they, and they'll say something that, with the credit card debt elimination, they'll say, oh, you have a Citibank card. It starts with, you have a Chase card. It starts with 4200. Could I have the rest of the numbers? And so a lot of people are impressed. Okay, he knows it's 4,200, so it must be Chase. No, that the beginning 4 or 5 digits of that 16-digit ID is generalized public information. So he uses that to gain your confidence. One thing is never give out any confidential information. Recognize the things. They use the scare tactics. You have to do it now. If it sounds too good to be true, it is too good. Anytime they demand money in an unusual form, be suspicious. No one needs, legitimate people don't need you to pay via gift cards. They don't need you to pay via, Western Union, etc. And once again, anytime, these are all red flags. If they do one of them, hang up. If they do more, hang up. The best thing you do is just hang up.
Mr. Rothke,
Yeah.
It's 8:45. Do you want to do Q&A now?
Yeah. So yeah, this, once again, I'll make these. These are pretty much, repetitive. Ask them where you're calling from. Last thing, hang up, and you can't go wrong. If you want more information, here's recordings with real scammers. Here's a list. You can start looking up things. But the only thing you could do is avoid being a victim, because if you call the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs, they'll say get in line, and it's a very, very long line. So, if you have any questions, you could email me. But we got some time now for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, feel free. Hopefully, I can answer them.
If I may, I'd like to say a few words.
Certainly.
First of all, thank you very much for your talk. I took a few notes, and I figured I could augment them a little bit to help everybody out around here. Number one is about the phone calls. What I have found and developed a technique to avoid all these crazy phone calls is if somebody calls and the first thing you pick up the phone, you see it's somebody you don't know, and your phone will tell you it's an unknown caller because they're not in your contacts. You can say, good morning or good afternoon, can I help you? If they don't talk to you within 2 seconds, you know it's a scam, just hang up. Don't say anything. You say goodbye, thank you, goodbye. That's what I do. And I have avoided 99.9% of the call situation. Another one I should share with you, a friend of mine who owns a computer store here in town told me about 3 from people here who lost respectively $60,000, $37,000, and $45,000 cleaned out from their bank account. At one point, he had to go and be a witness that they're of good character because the bank, Wells Fargo, gave them a hard time. Okay, that was one of them. Okay. The other item I'd like to augment and mention in accordance with what Ben said, you may get an email saying, hi, this is LifeLock, and your invoice for $500 or $401.91 will be charged in the next few days. And here's the customer service phone number to call, okay? And so the first thing you do is say, well, I never ordered LifeLock or anything, so you call the number. And they don't answer LifeLock, they answer Geek Squad or Amazon or anything. If you hear something different than what you see in that, that's the first indication that this is a scam. And the first thing you do, I would suggest, is hang up and delete that message and shut down your computer, because who knows what they did to you, okay? And if you have a computer genius who can help you, let them check out to see that there's no embedded software on your computer that somebody can use to sort of hack you and watch what you're doing, okay? The third item I wanted to talk about is the energy business. Ben, you mentioned gas and electric bills with money savings and so on. A while back, go back about 9 years ago, the federal government instituted a law that when you get your utility bill, it divides up between the supplier, the actual fuel that you get, and the actual provider of the service. Like public service is the provider here, and the fuel can come directly from public service or can come from a third provider, and they've allowed third providers to come in. A famous provider that used to be that went out of business was called Veridian. Some of you may have heard about that, okay? They were good for a while, but then they went bust because of a bunch of reasons. So again, you have to be very careful. The last one, but not least, crypto. Ben mentioned crypto where somebody says, oh, you can make a lot of money. And he showed a few screens. He is very correct. I've seen those screens. Somebody, an actual friend, tried to sell me some of those things. And I looked at it and I said, what's the minimum investment? He said, well, you should put in $10,000. I said, no, tell me the minimum. And so he said, $25. So I put in $25 to see what happens. It didn't take 4 months. That website that showed that screen that Ben was showing, it went bust. It doesn't exist anymore. Okay. So the rule of thumb is if somebody gives you that kind of stuff, forget it. If you want to buy crypto, there's a legitimate app called Cash App or Coinbase. Okay. Those two will allow you to buy crypto on the legitimate market, and you can keep it and watch it go up and down as it goes. Okay. And that's a legitimate holding of crypto. Okay. Bitcoin is a good example. Ethereum is another good example. But I want to say, and I say this because I've also been in IT for a number of years till I had to retire. And so I want to say, Ben, you did a fantastic job, and I want to say thank you very much.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, just two things about, there's the invoice scam, that's what you're talking is, this goes back, 50 years, people will send send paper invoices to a business. A lot of times they'll pay it. What email does, it allows you, if you had to send an invoice via public mail, it's, 50 cents each, to send 1 billion emails is maybe $1,000. And if they have a 0.00001% response rate, they're already, seeing a lot of dollar signs. And yeah, the invoice scam is big. And even if someone wants to invest in crypto, you could buy crypto on PayPal. You could go to Fidelity. A lot of legitimate banks offer crypto. Just don't do it over the phone. But yeah, thanks, Alex. All good points.
Oh, in terms of the charity that you mentioned, if I may mention it, just before this webinar, I got a phone call from somebody who says they're from Zaka, okay? But I looked at the home phone and it said, oh, it was some kind of a strange name, Sarah Gelbinger. I never heard of a Sarah Gelbinger in my life. But this person identified themselves as they are Yolanda, with an Israeli sounding name, and we are collecting for Zaka. I said, well, where are you calling from? Well, I'm calling from Israel. Well, who is Sarah? Oh, that's somebody who had the phone previously. What do you mean who had the phone previously? I said, I don't think I like you.
Yeah.
And, oh, we have a bad connection. And of course, we hung up, naturally, okay? So you may get charitable calls even from Jewish sounding organizations.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, one of the problems, unfortunately, is, we've come to the point is, there's a lot of, you don't want to turn down the legitimate ones, but if someone says they're calling from Zaka, say thank you, and go to the Zaka website or whatever every charity will have a online site where you can make that donation. Do it that way. But yeah, sadly, people will do that. Even, I mean, one thing that happens in natural disasters, scammers have websites up, before FEMA is there, and they'll have bogus charity sites for all these natural disasters. So as I said, the main thing to do is be aware, because these scammers are extremely aggressive. They're extremely quick and extremely creative. Anyone else? If you have a question, feel free to ask it. We're here to help out.
Yeah. How do you get yourself on a do not call list?
There is, you could go to Google do not call list. The problem with do not call list is that the scammers don't honor it. The do not call list works for the honest organizations, but it's utterly ineffective for the scammers. That's how they're able to make 100,000 calls an hour. They don't care. They just do things in sequential order because the technology is such, it's very easy. You start, they know all the prefixes, 212, 200, and there's tens and tens, hundreds of thousands of numbers, and they go through it one by one, and they're not cross-referencing a do not call list. So, if you, let's just say you ask a local body shop, not to call you, and they do, so you have legal action. But once again, if the scammer does that, A, the number they're using has probably been spoofed, and B is there's no way to track them down. So I think it's donotcall.gov. You could put yourself on it that way, but it's just going to keep the legitimate people out. It does absolutely nothing to stop the scammers, sadly, because if they're going to commit felonies, they're certainly not going to abide by the do not call list.
I recommend two other things I may. If you have the Verizon cable Fios cable service, okay, there is an app called No More Robo. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And it's available. It's a legitimate app. It was done by a Jewish person who invented it, and he got an award from the FCC or FTC, Federal Trade Commission, about $50,000 for his creativity. You can use that to avoid a lot of robocalls on your home phone, okay? The one for your cell phone, to use No More Robo, that costs about $25 a year or something like that, okay? I don't use it for the cell phone, but for the home phone, I use it, and it captures a lot of people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just call and be a great nuisance. And I've shared this with a few of my friends, and so I know it's available with Fios. It's not available with Comcast or the other one.
There's another for cell phones. There's an application called Hiya, Hiya, which is free. One thing also is it's actually much more difficult for the telcos to block regular landline calls than cell phones due to FCC regulations. So ironically, the scammers are using that to their benefit for landlines. Your options, your ability to block calls and stop them on cell phones are much better. So there's a lot of good free tools out there. No More Romo, I said, Hiya. You could go to Consumer Reports has had a number of articles on the tools out there. Your cell company also will have these tools available. But I said it's much easier to block it on a cell phone than on the landline.
Now, believe it or not, my landlines are from Fios, and I can see most of the calls have one ring, and then they go away. That's and I once called from a commercial outfit to my home, and the first thing I got the recording that says, if you're a legitimate caller, punch a digital number on your phone. And if the machine doesn't punch a digital number, then
yeah, I mean, one of the the outlets, they do a relatively good job, but occasionally they have what's called a false positive, and they will block a legitimate user. But the tools themselves are pretty are quite good. And I said it's your cell phone is much easier to do these.
Okay, excellent job. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for that added stuff, Alex. Good information for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rothke. Does anyone else have any questions in the last minute? This is recorded, and I will be sharing it. So if you want to review what Mr. Rothke, I know there was a lot of good information. If you want to review it or share it with your family members, it will be recorded, and I could send the link to the recording.
Yeah, we covered a lot here. The main point is, just, awareness is 90% of it. Any questions, feel free to send me an email. More than happy to help you out.
Thank you so much. So should I put your email on the chat for everyone here?
Sure. I mean, you can see it right now in the presentation, but yeah, sure. Feel
okay. What is it?
brothke@gmail.
B Rothke Thank you so much for your time and giving out your email for questions. I know this is a huge issue these days.
Yeah.
I work closely with older adults and I know how big this problem is.
Yeah.
And it needs,
It's huge. It's only, sadly, it's only going to get much, much worse. And so that's just, repeating it again, awareness, awareness, awareness. And if you do that, odds are in your favor that you won't be a victim.
and also it sounds like better safe than sorry, better to
Yeah,
leave
I
up
said it-
and lose an opportunity, so to say.
Yeah. If you accidentally hang up on a friend, they'll laugh at it, but as it is, you can't go wrong hanging up the phone. And
If it's a true friend, they'll call you back.
exactly. Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining and keep your emails open for the next Golden Resource webinar and I will send out the link.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rothke. Have a great night, everyone.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah.